The champagne glasses stopped clinking. The murmurs died instantly. It was as if the air had been sucked out of the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. 300 of New York's elite froze, their eyes glued to the top of the marble staircase. Sebastian Thorne, the man of the hour, dropped his crystal tumbler, the sound of shattering glass echoing like a gunshot in the silence. He wasn't looking at the shattered glass. He was staring at the woman descending the stairs in a dress the color of midnight vengeance. It was the wife he had discarded 5 years ago, and she wasn't alone. Holding her hand was a boy with Sebastian's exact steel-gray eyes. The rain in Seattle didn't wash things clean. It just made the grime stick harder. That was how Elena felt as she stood in the foyer of the Thorne estate on a Tuesday evening in November. She felt like grime, something unwanted that had stuck to the bottom of Sebastian Thorne's expensive Italian leather shoes. "I need you to sign the papers tonight, Elena," Sebastian said. He didn't even look up from his phone. He was typing a message, likely to Vanessa, the woman the tabloids called his muse. Elena stood trembling, her hands clutching her stomach. She had planned to tell him tonight. She had bought a small pair of knitted booties, hiding them in her pocket. "Sebastian, can we just talk? Please. It's our anniversary." Sebastian finally looked up. His face, chiseled and handsome in that cruel, aristocratic way, showed nothing but fatigue. "Anniversary? Elena, look at yourself. You're wearing a cardigan you've had since college. You don't fit in my world. You never did. My publicist, Marcus Valeri, told me the stocks dropped 2 points just because you were photographed sneezing at the charity lungar last week. You're plain." The word hung in the air. Plain. "I cooked dinner," she whispered, a desperate attempt to hold on to the man she had loved since he was just a startup hopeful in a garage. "Vanessa is waiting for me at Le Bernardin," Sebastian said, checking his Rolex. "She secured the contract with the frantic French investors. She's an asset, Elena. You are a liability. I'm buying you out. $2 million. Sign the papers, pack your things, and be gone by the time I get back from Paris on Monday." He walked past her, the scent of his cologne, Santal 33 and cold ambition, washing over her. He didn't see the tears tracking through the modest makeup she had applied. He didn't see her hand protectively covering her lower abdomen. "Sebastian," she called out, her voice cracking. "If I leave now, I'm never coming back. And you won't know everything." He paused at the door, hand on the brass knob. He didn't turn around. "That's the point, Elena. I don't want to know anything else. Goodbye." The door slammed. The sound finalized the death of 5 years of marriage. Elena collapsed onto the cold marble floor. She pulled the knitted booties out of her pocket. Blue. She had hoped for a boy. A jagged sob tore through her throat. $2 million, she whispered to the empty house. It was a fortune to some, but to the Thorne empire, it was pocket change. It was a dismissal fee. A severance package for a wife. She stood up, wiping her face. The trembling stopped, replaced by a cold, hard stone settling in her chest. She wouldn't take the $2 million. She wouldn't take a dime of his money. She went upstairs, bypassing the designer luggage he had bought her for appearances. She pulled out her old, battered duffel bag from under the bed. She packed 2 pairs of jeans, 3 sweaters, her comfortable sneakers, and a framed photo of her late mother. She left her wedding ring on the nightstand. Beside it, she placed the signed divorce papers. But she added a note on top of the legal document. "You wanted an asset, Sebastian. You wanted someone who fits your world. I hope Vanessa is worth the price of your soul. I'm taking the only thing that matters. Don't look for me." She didn't mention the baby. If he thought she was a liability, he would think their child was a mistake. She walked out of the mansion and into the pouring rain. She hailed a cab not to a hotel, but to the Greyhound bus station. Elena Sterling died that night in the rain. 5 years later. The glass walls of the high-rise office in London overlooked the Thames. The sign on the frosted glass door read, Aurelia Global CEO Office. Elena sat behind a desk made of reclaimed black oak, reviewing the acquisition files for Thorne Enterprises. She looked different. The mousy brown hair was now a sleek, sharp bob dyed a raven black. Her posture was razor straight. She wore a tailored cream suit by Alexander McQueen that cost more than the car she used to drive. But the biggest change was in her eyes. The timidity was gone, replaced by a calculating intelligence that had terrified Wall Street for the past 3 years. "Miss Sterling?" Her assistant, a sharp young man named Julian, knocked softly. "The helicopter is ready. We have to be in New York by tomorrow evening for the Met Gala pre-party. But first, the board meeting." "Thank you, Julian," Elena said, her voice smooth and commanding. "Is the file on Sebastian Thorne complete?" "Yes, ma'am. It's brutal. Thorne Enterprises is hemorrhaging money. His asset, Vanessa, was caught embezzling funds through a shell company in the Caymans. The scandal has tanked their stock. He's desperate for a merger. He thinks he's meeting with the silent partner of Aurelia Global at the Gala to save his company." Elena smirked. "He thinks he's meeting a man, doesn't he?" "He assumes the CEO of Aurelia is a reclusive male billionaire," Julian confirmed. "He has no idea." Elena closed the folder. "Good. Let him sweat." She stood up and walked to the adjoining private room. A little boy, 4 years old, with messy dark hair and piercing gray eyes, was building a complex tower out of Lego bricks on the rug. "Leo," she said softly, her face softening instantly. The boy looked up. "Mommy, look, I built a skyscraper. It's taller than Daddy's. I mean, taller than the one in the picture." Elena's heart pinched. Leo was smart. Too smart. He had seen magazines. He had seen Sebastian's face on the news. He knew who his father was, even though they had never met. Elena had never lied to him, but she had protected him. "It is very tall, baby," she smiled, crouching down. "We're going on a trip. To New York." Leo's eyes widened. "The Big Apple? Can we go to the park?" "We can go anywhere you want," she promised, kissing his forehead. "But first, Mommy has to go to a party. A very important party. And I want you to come with me for the beginning." "Will he be there?" Leo asked quietly. Elena paused. She brushed a lock of hair from his forehead. "Yes, he will." "Is he mean?" "He made a mistake, Leo. A very big mistake. And we are going to show him that mistakes have consequences." The intercom buzzed. "Miss Sterling, Mr. Blackwood is on line 1. He says it's urgent regarding the Gala security. Put him through." Alexander Blackwood. He was the only man who knew the truth. A former British intelligence officer turned private security magnate. He had found Elena 4 years ago when she was waiting tables in a dive bar in Chicago, trying to finish her MBA at night while nursing a newborn. He saw the fire in her. He invested in her idea for a tech logistics algorithm when no one else would. He was her mentor, her protector, and perhaps the only man she trusted. "Elena," Alexander's voice was deep and gravelly, "I've secured the perimeter for the Pierre Hotel, but you need to know, Sebastian isn't coming alone. He's bringing his mother, Catherine, the woman who made your life hell." Elena's grip on the phone tightened. Catherine Thorne, the matriarch who used to inspect the dust on Elena's shelves with a white glove. The woman who had told Sebastian that Elena was breeding stock for mediocrity. "Good," Elena said, her voice turning to ice. "Let them all come. I want the whole family to see." "Are you sure about taking Leo?" Alexander asked gently. "Once the cameras see him, once Sebastian sees him, there is no going back. He will sue for custody. He will fight dirty." "Let him try," Elena said, looking at her son who was now putting a flag on his Lego tower. 5 years ago, I ran away because I was weak. I was scared. I didn't have a dollar to my name. Now, I own the bank that holds his mortgage, Alexander. If he tries to take my son, I won't just sue him. I will buy the ground he stands on and evict him from it." "That's my girl," Alexander chuckled. "The jet is waiting. It's time to go home, Mrs. Thorne. Or should I say, Ms. Sterling?" "Sterling," she corrected. "Thorne is a name for people who bleed. Sterling is silver. It's hard, cold, and valuable." She picked up Leo. "Ready to fly, little man?" "Ready," Leo cheered. As the private jet soared over the Atlantic, Elena looked out at the dark ocean. She remembered the rain in Seattle. She remembered the taste of despair. "You wanted a stunning wife, Sebastian," she thought, sipping a glass of Dom Perignon 2008. "You wanted drama. You wanted high stakes. I'm gonna give you the performance of a lifetime. She opened her laptop. The screen displayed the invitation to the New York Winter Gala. The RSVP list was flashing. Guest of honor, Sebastian Thorne. Special guest, the CEO of Aurelia Global. Elena clicked, confirm attendance. The game was on. The Pierre Hotel in Manhattan was a fortress of light and noise. Flashbulbs popped like stroboscopic lightning, blinding anyone foolish enough to look directly at the paparazzi pen. The red carpet was a river of crimson velvet, flowing up the grand steps into the ballroom where the New York Winter Gala was being held. Sebastian Thorne stood near the entrance, adjusting his cufflinks for the 10th time. He felt like a man standing on a trapdoor. "Stop fidgeting, Sebastian," his mother, Catherine Thorne, hissed. She was wearing a silver gown that looked like chainmail, fitting for a woman who waged war on people's self-esteem for a living. "You look desperate. The investors can smell desperation like sharks smell blood." "I am desperate, Mother," Sebastian muttered, scanning the crowd. "If the Aurelia Global representative doesn't sign the merger tonight, Thorne Enterprises is insolvent by Friday. We lose everything. The estate, the company, your Hamptons house." "Don't be dramatic," Catherine snapped, though her hand tightened on her clutch. "Vanessa is handling the press. She's charming them." Sebastian looked over at Vanessa. His fiancée, if he could still call her that, was posing for the cameras, blowing kisses. She wore a bright pink dress that was cut too low and slit too high. It screamed for attention. 5 years ago, Sebastian had thought her boldness was refreshing compared to Elena's quiet reserve. Now watching Vanessa giggle as she accidentally on purpose dropped her strap for a photo, he felt a wave of nausea. "She looks cheap," Sebastian said, the realization slipping out before he could stop it. "She brings in the tabloids," Catherine countered, though she wrinkled her nose. "And right now, any press is better than the silence of bankruptcy. Just focus on finding the Aurelia CEO. Do we know what he looks like yet?" "No. Julian, their VP, just said to look for the gold pin. Apparently, the CEO wears a lapel pin with the Aurelia crest. A golden phoenix." "Dramatic," Catherine scoffed. Suddenly, the noise stopped. It didn't taper off. It was severed. The chaotic shouting of photographers, "Over here, Vanessa! Mr. Thorne, look left!" died instantly. The silence rippled outward from the curb like a shockwave. Sebastian frowned. "What is going on? Did the president arrive?" He turned toward the street. A fleet of 3 matte black Rolls-Royce Phantoms had pulled up. They weren't the rental limos most guests used. These were armored, custom beasts. The lead car's door opened, and a large man in a tuxedo stepped out. Sebastian recognized him vaguely. Alexander Blackwood, the security mogul. Alexander didn't walk to the red carpet. He walked to the rear door of the middle car and opened it with a bow. First, a pair of heels touched the pavement. Stilettos. Black, with a sole of distinct, dangerous red. Then, she emerged. Sebastian felt his breath hitch. The woman was wearing a gown that defied gravity. It was a deep, midnight blue velvet, off the shoulder, hugging every curve of a body that was far more voluptuous and toned than he remembered. The fabric flowed into a long train that shimmered with thousands of tiny embedded crystals, making her look like she was dragging the night sky behind her. Her hair, once a mousy brown she always tied in a messy bun, was now a sleek, sharp, geometric bob, black as ink. Her lips were painted a deep crimson. "Who is that?" Vanessa asked, walking back to Sebastian, her voice shrill in the sudden quiet. "She's stealing my light." Sebastian didn't answer. He couldn't speak. His brain was trying to overlay this vision of power and darkness onto the memory of the woman in the college cardigan who used to make him chamomile tea. Elena? It was impossible. Elena was plain. Elena was soft. Elena was the woman who cried when she killed a spider. This woman looked like she ate spiders for breakfast. But then, the woman turned back to the car and extended a hand. A gloved hand. "Come on, darling." Her voice drifted over the silent crowd. It was Elena's voice, but pitched lower, smoother. A small boy hopped out of the car. The crowd gasped audibly. The boy was about 4 years old, dressed in a miniature bespoke tuxedo that matched the man's beside him. He had dark, messy hair and an inquisitive face. He looked around at the cameras, blinked, and then looked up at Elena. "Mommy, there are so many lights," the boy said. Elena smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that Sebastian hadn't seen in half a decade. "Just hold my hand, Leo. Walk like a king." She took the boy's hand. On her other side, Alexander Blackwood offered his arm. Together, the trio began to walk up the red carpet. The paparazzi woke up. The explosion of flashbulbs was blinding. It was 10 times more intense than it had been for Vanessa. "Who is she? Is that Elena Thorne? Look at the kid! Look at his face! Is that Sebastian's son?" The questions hit Sebastian like physical blows. He stumbled back a step. His mother, Catherine, grabbed his arm, her fingernails digging into his bicep. "Sebastian?" she hissed, her voice trembling with genuine shock. "That child. Look at his eyes." Sebastian was looking. He couldn't look away. As the boy walked closer, glancing nervously at the shouting photographers, the light caught his iris. Steel gray. Cold, sharp, distinctive gray. The Thorne eyes. "He has my face," Sebastian whispered. The world tilted on its axis. She was pregnant? Elena reached the top of the stairs, where the event organizers were checking names. She didn't stop. She didn't look for approval. She simply nodded to the head of security, who immediately unlatched the velvet rope for her. As she passed Sebastian, she didn't stop. She didn't acknowledge him. But the scent of her perfume hit him. It wasn't the vanilla extract and laundry detergent of the past. It was black orchid and cold, hard cash. She swept past him, the train of her dress brushing against his shoe. "Elena!" Sebastian choked out. She paused. Just for a microsecond. She turned her head slightly, her chin raised. Her eyes met his. They were devoid of love. They were devoid of hate. They were simply bored. "Mr. Thorne?" She acknowledged coolly. Then she looked down at the boy. "Keep walking, Leo." And then she was gone, disappearing into the golden glow of the ballroom, leaving Sebastian standing next to a fuming Vanessa and a hyperventilating mother, while the press screamed for answers he didn't have. The grand ballroom was a sea of old money and new lies. Waiters navigated through the crowd with trays of champagne, while a string quartet played a melancholic version of a pop song in the corner. Elena stood near a massive ice sculpture, sipping sparkling water. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird, but her face was a mask of porcelain calm. "You did well," Alexander whispered, leaning in close. To the onlookers, it looked like an intimate moment between lovers. "Did you see his face? He looked like he'd been struck by a shovel." "I saw," Elena replied quietly. She squeezed Leo's hand. The boy was currently fascinated by the ice sculpture. "But the hard part is just starting. He's going to come over here. He's going to make a scene." "Let him," Alexander grinned, his eyes scanning the room for threats. "I've been waiting to punch him for 4 years. Just say the word." "No violence, Alex. Not tonight. Tonight is about business. Tonight I buy his legacy out from under him." Across the room, the crowd parted. Sebastian was cutting a path through the guests. He wasn't walking with his usual confident swagger. He was marching with frantic energy. Vanessa was trailing behind him, looking confused and angry, while Catherine was being fanned by a waiter near the entrance. Sebastian stopped 3 feet from Elena. He was breathing hard. Up close, Elena could see the gray hairs at his temples that hadn't been there before. He looked thinner. The stress of losing his empire wore on him. "Elena," he said, his voice low but intense. Elena turned slowly, swirling the lime in her water. "Sebastian, you're blocking the view of the orchestra." "Stop it," he snapped. "Drop the act. What are you doing here? How did you get in? This is a $30,000 a plate event. Did you marry him?" He gestured rudely at Alexander. Alexander stepped forward, his chest expanding, looming over Sebastian. "Careful with the finger, mate, unless you want to lose it." "It's fine, Alexander," Elena said calmly. She looked Sebastian up and down. "I'm not here as anyone's +1, Sebastian. I bought a table. Table 1, actually." Sebastian blinked. Table 1 was reserved for the highest tier donors. It cost $500,000. You bought table 1? He laughed, a harsh, incredulous sound. With what? Did you win the lottery? Or is this some sort of alimony scheme? I never took your alimony, Sebastian, remember? Before he could retort, his eyes drifted down. Leo had turned around from the ice sculpture. The boy held a small toy car in his hand. He looked up at the shouting man. Sebastian fell to his knees. It was an uncharacteristic display of emotion for a man who prided himself on stoicism. He was now eye level with the child. Hello? Sebastian whispered. Leo stepped back, pressing his face into Elena's velvet dress. Mommy, who is he? The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Sebastian looked up at Elena, his eyes wet. Elena, is he mine? The timeline 5 years ago. You were wearing that cardigan. You were hiding your stomach. He is my son, Elena corrected sharply. He is the child I raised while working double shifts. He is the child I held when he had a fever of 104, and I couldn't afford a private doctor. He is the child who took his first steps in a studio apartment the size of your bathroom. Why didn't you tell me? Sebastian's voice cracked. I have a son, an heir. An heir? Elena laughed, a cold, humorless sound. That's all he is to you, isn't it? An asset, just like I was a liability. You don't want a son, Sebastian. You want a prop to save your company's image. That's not true. Sebastian stood up, his face reddening. I had a right to know. You forfeited your rights when you threw us out in the rain. Elena hissed, her composure cracking just enough to show the fire beneath. You told me to leave and never come back. You said you didn't want to know anything. I simply followed your instructions. Oh, please. A shrill voice cut in. Vanessa pushed past Sebastian. She glared at Elena, looking her up and down with jealousy radiating off her. This is obviously a stunt. She probably hired the kid. Or maybe she trapped you, Sebastian. That's what women like her do. She's just a gold digger who came back for a payout. Vanessa, holding a glass of red wine, took a step closer to Elena. Nice dress, sweetie. Is it a rental? It would be a shame if something happened to it. Vanessa feigned a stumble, tilting her glass forward. It was a classic mean girl move, designed to humiliate Elena by drenching her in red wine. But Elena wasn't the clumsy housewife anymore. She had spent the last 3 years negotiating with shark-like investors in Tokyo and London. Her reflexes were honed. As the wine arched through the air, Elena didn't flinch. She simply sidestepped with the grace of a matador. She moved so smoothly that Vanessa, expecting resistance or a collision, lost her balance. Vanessa shrieked as she pitched forward. The wine splashed all over Sebastian's pristine white tuxedo shirt, turning it a bloody crimson. Vanessa fell to her knees, ripping the hem of her cheap pink dress. The ballroom went silent again. Everyone was watching. Elena stood above them, not a drop of wine on her. She looked at Vanessa with pity. You should really be more careful, Vanessa. Balance is everything. In heels and in life. She turned to Alexander. Hand me a napkin, please. Alexander handed her a silk handkerchief. Elena didn't use it on herself. She dropped it onto Sebastian's stained chest. You look like a mess, Sebastian, she said softly. It doesn't suit a CEO who is trying to close a merger. Sebastian stared at her. He was humiliated. Covered in wine, his fiancée on the floor, his secret son hiding from him. And yet, he had never been more attracted to Elena than he was in this moment. She was magnificent. Elena, he pleaded, we need to talk. Privately. Please. I'm afraid I'm busy, she said, checking a diamond-encrusted watch. I have a meeting at midnight with a failing company. I hear their CEO is desperate. Sebastian froze. The gears in his head began to turn. The confidence. The money. The gold pin clue Julian had mentioned. He looked at Elena's dress. Pinned to the velvet sash at her waist was a brooch. It was a golden phoenix rising from the ashes. His blood ran cold. The pin, he whispered. Aurelia Global. Aurelia, that's your middle name. Elena smiled. It was the smile of the wolf who had finally cornered the sheep. Hello, Sebastian, she said formally, extending her hand. I believe you've been waiting for me. I am the CEO of Aurelia Global, and we have a lot to discuss regarding the acquisition of your life's work. The crowd erupted into whispers. Sebastian stood paralyzed. He hadn't just discarded a wife. He had discarded the only person capable of saving him. And now, she held the knife that was pressed against his throat. Shall we dance first? Elena asked, her eyes dancing with dark amusement. I believe the band is playing our song. What song? Sebastian mumbled, dazed. Survivor, she whispered. Just then, Catherine Thorne pushed through the crowd. She saw the wine, the boy, and Elena's pin. Her face went pale. You! Catherine pointed a trembling finger at Elena. You ungrateful little... Careful, Catherine. Elena cut her off, her voice booming slightly so the nearby donors could hear. I own the mortgage on the Thorne estate as of this morning. Unless you want to be living in a motel by Tuesday, I suggest you lower your finger and show some respect to your landlord. Catherine gasped and clutched her pearls, looking as if she might faint. Elena turned back to Sebastian. Meeting in the library. 10 minutes. Bring your lawyers. And Sebastian? He looked up, broken. Don't bring her. She gestured to Vanessa, who was trying to wipe wine off the floor with a napkin. Adults are talking. Elena turned and walked away, Leo skipping beside her, leaving the Thorne family in the ruins of their own arrogance. The library of the Pierre Hotel was a sanctuary of silence, smelling of old leather, mahogany, and century-old secrets. It was a stark contrast to the chaotic ballroom outside, yet the war being waged inside these walls was far deadlier. Elena sat at the head of the long oak table. She didn't look like an ex-wife, she looked like an executioner. To her right sat Alexander, his posture relaxed but his eyes scanning the room like a predator. To her left lay a thick black folder. Sebastian entered the room alone. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. The wine stain on his shirt had dried into a jagged, rusty map of his humiliation. He closed the heavy door, shutting out the noise of the gala. Sit, Elena commanded. She didn't gesture. She simply spoke, and the air obeyed her. Sebastian pulled out a chair opposite her. The distance between them felt like an ocean, specifically the 5 years of silence he had enforced. Elena, he started, his voice rasping. I don't know where to begin. The boy, Leo, he's amazing. I saw him building that tower in the lobby. He has my engineering mind. He has my resilience, Elena corrected, opening the black folder. And right now we are not discussing genetics. We are discussing the corpse of Thorne Enterprises. It's not a corpse, Sebastian defended instinctively, his CEO mask slipping back on. We are in a liquidity crunch, a temporary setback. If we merge with Aurelia, the stock will rebound within the quarter. There is no merger, Sebastian. Sebastian froze. What? You said outside. I said we had to discuss an acquisition. Elena slid a document across the table. Aurelia Global isn't merging with you. We are buying you. Hostile takeover. I've already purchased 51% of your outstanding debt from the banks in Hong Kong. As of 9 a.m. tomorrow, I can foreclose on your headquarters, your factories, and your patent portfolio. Sebastian picked up the document. His hands shook as he read the terms. It was a bloodbath. She was offering pennies on the dollar. This is robbery, he whispered, looking up at her with betrayal in his eyes. You're destroying me. Why? Is this revenge? Is this because I asked for a divorce? Elena laughed, a soft, chilling sound. You think you're that important? This isn't emotional, Sebastian. It's business. Your company is failing because you are a weak leader. You let your mother dictate your HR policies. You let your mistress handle your finances. Vanessa is a capable CFO. Sebastian snapped. Elena signaled to Alexander. He pulled a remote from his pocket and pointed it at the hidden TV screen built into the bookshelf. The screen flickered to life. It was grainy security footage. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. It showed Vanessa inside the Thorne Enterprises server room. She was plugging a drive into the mainframe. The screen cut to another angle. Vanessa at a bank in the Cayman Islands, signing documents. Vanessa has been siphoning R&D funds for 2 years, Elena narrated calmly. She's been selling your prototypes to your competitors in Silicon Valley. That liquidity crunch you're feeling. That's her buying a villa in Tuscany with your money. Sebastian watched the screen, his mouth slightly open. The color drained from his face until he looked like a ghost. No, he muttered. She loves me. She stood by me when the stocks dropped. She stood by the checkbook, Sebastian, and when the checks started bouncing, she started stealing. Alexander tossed a stack of photos onto the table. They showed Vanessa meeting with the CEO of Thorne's biggest rival, looking very cozy at a cafe in Paris. Sebastian slumped back in his chair. The betrayal hit him harder than the bankruptcy. He had thrown away a loyal wife for a woman who was actively stabbing him in the back. I didn't know, he whispered, head in his hands. I'm a fool. Yes, Elena agreed. You are. But I'm not here to gloat. I'm here to save the legacy for my son. Sebastian's head snapped up. For Leo? If Thorne Enterprises goes under, Leo inherits nothing but your debts and your shame. I won't allow that. I am buying the company. I will fire Vanessa and have her arrested. I will restructure the board. I will make the company profitable again. And me? Sebastian asked, his voice barely audible. You will remain as a figurehead, the face of the brand. But you will have no voting power. You answer to the board, and the board answers to me. Sebastian looked at the woman he had called plain. She was burning with an intensity that terrified and aroused him. He realized, with a sinking heart, that he had never really known her. He had only seen what he wanted to see, a housewife. He hadn't seen the queen hiding beneath the cardigan. And if I refuse, then I release the evidence of Vanessa's embezzlement to the press tomorrow morning. The SEC will investigate. You will be implicated for negligence. You will go to prison, Sebastian. And while you are in a cell, I will raise our son to forget your name. The threat hung heavy in the room. It wasn't an idle threat. It was a promise. Sebastian picked up the pen. He looked at the signature line. Sebastian Thorne, former CEO. Can I see him? Sebastian asked, his pen hovering over the paper. Leo, can I get to know him? Elena leaned forward, her eyes softening just a fraction, but the steel remained. That depends on you. Sign the paper. Fire Vanessa. Evict your mother from my property. Show me you are a father, not just a boss. Then, we can talk about visitation. Sebastian signed. The scratch of the pen against the paper sounded like the closing of a coffin. Done, he said, pushing the paper back. He looked broken, but strangely relieved. The weight of the failing empire was gone. Good choice, Elena said, standing up. Alexander will handle the press release. Elena, Sebastian stood up, reaching for her hand but stopping short. I'm sorry. About that night, about the rain. I was chasing something shiny and I threw away the gold. Elena looked at his hand, then at his face. Gold is soft, Sebastian. I told you, I'm steel now. And steel remembers everything. She turned to leave. But as she reached the door, the library phone rang. It wasn't the hotel line. It was Alexander's encrypted satellite phone. Alexander answered it. His face, usually impassive, twisted into a scowl. What? Repeat that. Now. He lowered the phone, looking at Elena. For the first time, all night, there was fear in his eyes. Elena. It's the nanny. She took Leo to the restroom 5 minutes ago. She was ambushed. Elena's heart stopped. Where is my son? Gone, Alexander said grimly. And the security cameras show Vanessa and Catherine leaving through the service exit carrying a large laundry hamper. The world narrowed down to a single, terrifying point of focus. The contract, the money, the revenge, it all evaporated. Elena didn't scream. She went deadly quiet. Lock down the building, she ordered Alexander. Her voice was unrecognizable. It was the voice of a mother whose cub had been taken. Nobody leaves. Not a single car. They're already in the garage, Alexander said, tapping his earpiece, communicating with his tactical team. They're in a silver Mercedes SUV. They're trying to beat the blockade. Elena was already running. She kicked off her heels, sprinting barefoot across the marble floor of the library, tearing the expensive velvet gown at the thigh to allow her legs to move freely. Sebastian was right behind her. My mother took him? With Vanessa? Are they insane? They're desperate. Elena yelled back, bursting through the service doors into the kitchen, scattering startled chefs. They know they've lost everything. They're using Leo as a bargaining chip. They reached the freight elevator. Alexander swiped his override card, and the doors groaned open. The descent to the parking garage felt like it took a century. If they hurt him, Sebastian growled, his face twisted in a fury Elena had never seen. I will kill them myself. Save your breath for running, Elena snapped. The elevator dinged. The parking garage was a cavern of concrete and exhaust fumes. Tires screeched in the distance. There, Alexander pointed. 50 yards away, a silver SUV was revving its engine, trying to maneuver around a blockade of black security vehicles Alexander's team had positioned at the exit. The SUV rammed into a parked BMW, shattering glass, then reversed wildly. Elena saw a flash of pink in the driver's seat. Vanessa. Leo! Elena screamed, running toward the car. The SUV spun around, tires smoking. Vanessa saw the exit was blocked. She saw Elena and Sebastian running toward her. Panic took over. She floored the gas, not toward the exit, but toward the ramp leading up to the second level. She's going to the roof, Alexander shouted. There's no exit there. She's cornered, Sebastian panted, sprinting alongside Elena. She's dangerous. They chased the car up the ramp. The SUV screeched to a halt on the open-air rooftop parking deck. The night air was freezing. The lights of the Manhattan skyline mocked them with their indifference. The SUV doors opened. Vanessa stepped out, her hair wild, her dress torn. She was holding a small, terrifyingly sharp letter opener she must have grabbed from an office. From the back seat, Catherine Thorne emerged. She was dragging Leo by his arm. The boy was crying, flailing, kicking at his grandmother's shins. Let me go! Leo screamed. Mommy! Shut up, you wretched child! Catherine snapped, shaking him. Elena stopped 10 feet away. Her chest was heaving, her feet bleeding from the run. Let him go, Catherine! It's over! You have nowhere to run! It's over when I say it's over! Vanessa shrieked, waving the letter opener. She looked unhinged. The veneer of the socialite had cracked completely, revealing the rot underneath. You think you can just waltz back in here and take everything? The money? The house? The man? I don't want the man, Elena said calmly, holding her hands up, stepping closer inch by inch. You can have him, Vanessa. He's yours. Just give me my son. He's not your son anymore, Catherine yelled. He is a thorn. He is the heir. If we have him, we have the leverage. You won't evict us. You won't prosecute us. You will sign over the company to me, or you will never see this boy again. Catherine dragged Leo toward the edge of the roof. The drop was 4 stories down to the concrete street. Grandma, stop! Sebastian stepped forward. His voice was booming, authoritative. Look at me, Mother. Look at what you are doing. You are holding your own grandson hostage. Catherine hesitated. Seeing her son, the boy she had molded, looking at her with such pure disgust, shook her. Sebastian, I'm doing this for us. For the family name. There is no family name, Sebastian roared. You destroyed it, you and Vanessa. You turned me into a monster, and now you've become monsters yourselves. Let him go. Don't listen to him, Catherine, Vanessa yelled. He's weak. He still loves her. Throw the kid over if she steps closer. Vanessa lunged at Elena with the blade. It happened in slow motion. Elena didn't retreat. She didn't cower. The years of martial arts training Alexander had insisted on kicked in. As Vanessa thrust the weapon, Elena caught her wrist. Crack! The sound of Vanessa's wrist breaking was sickeningly loud. Vanessa screamed, dropping the weapon. Elena didn't stop. She spun Vanessa around, slamming her face first into the hood of the SUV. Stay down, Elena growled. But across the roof, Catherine panicked. Seeing her accomplice fall, she stumbled back toward the ledge, pulling Leo with her. Her heel caught on a drainage grate. She slipped. No! Sebastian screamed. Catherine fell backward over the low concrete wall. Her hand was still clamped tight around Leo's small wrist. Leo was yanked off his feet. He went over the edge with her. Leo! Elena's scream tore her throat apart. She and Sebastian reached the wall at the same instant. Below, Catherine had fallen onto a lower balcony ledge 10 feet down. She was unconscious, sprawled awkwardly. But Leo wasn't on the ledge. He was dangling. His small hands were gripping the rusty iron railing of the balcony, his feet kicking in empty air. Below him was a 60-foot drop to the street. "Mommy!" Leo shrieked, his grip slipping on the wet iron. "I can't hold on." "Hold on, Leo, look at me!" Elena leaned over the parapet, stretching her arm down. It was too far. She couldn't reach him. "I'm going down," Sebastian said. He didn't hesitate. He climbed over the wall. "Sebastian, wait, you don't have a harness," Alexander yelled, arriving at the scene. "He's my son," Sebastian grunted. He lowered himself, hanging by his fingertips from the roof edge. He swung his body, momentum carrying him toward the lower balcony where Leo was dangling. It was a reckless, stupid, heroic move. He let go. He crashed onto the lower balcony, rolling hard. He heard a crack in his rib cage, but adrenaline masked the pain. He scrambled to the railing just as Leo's fingers slipped. Leo fell. Sebastian lunged. His hand shot out through the bars of the railing. He caught Leo's wrist. The boy jolted to a halt, dangling in the void. Sebastian groaned, the weight tearing at his shoulder socket. He was lying flat on the wet concrete of the balcony, his arm extended through the bars, holding the most precious thing in the world. "I've got you," Sebastian gasped, sweat and rain blinding him. "I've got you, Leo. Daddy's got you." "Pull him up!" Elena screamed from the roof above. "I can't," Sebastian gritted his teeth. "My shoulder. It's out." He couldn't lift the boy. He could only hold on, and his grip was failing. "Alexander!" Elena turned to her partner. "Rope! Now!" Alexander was already moving. He threw a tactical line down. "Tie it around your waist, Sebastian!" "I can't let go of him to tie it!" Sebastian yelled back. Elena did the unthinkable. She climbed over the wall. "Elena, no!" Alexander shouted. She didn't listen. She dropped down to the balcony, landing beside Sebastian. She scrambled to the railing. "Grab him!" Sebastian yelled, his face purple with exertion. Elena reached through the bars and grabbed Leo's other arm. "I have him! On 3! 1, 2, 3!" Together, the estranged husband and wife, the billionaire and the outcast, pulled with everything they had. They hauled Leo up, scraping him over the edge of the balcony. Leo tumbled onto the concrete, wet and shivering. Elena collapsed on top of him, shielding his body with hers, sobbing uncontrollably. Sebastian rolled onto his back, clutching his dislocated shoulder, staring up at the rain that had started to fall again. He looked at Elena, holding the boy. He started to laugh, a painful, weeping laugh. "We caught him," he whispered. Elena looked up. Her makeup was ruined, her hair plastered to her skull. She looked at Sebastian. For the first time in 5 years, there was no hatred in her eyes, only shared relief. "Yes," she whispered. "We caught him." Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder. The flashing blue and red lights painted the rooftop in chaotic colors. Vanessa was moaning on the hood of the car. Catherine was unconscious nearby. The empire had fallen. The gala was over. But on that cold, wet balcony, a family broken, battered, and scarred was, for a brief moment, whole. The immediate aftermath. The lights of the police cruisers didn't feel chaotic anymore. They felt like a cleansing fire. The rooftop of the parking garage was swarming with NYPD officers, paramedics, and the inevitable paparazzi who had bribed their way past the barricades to capture the fall of the House of Thorn. Elena sat on the bumper of an ambulance, a shock blanket draped over her torn velvet dress. Leo was asleep in her lap, exhausted by the adrenaline crash, clutching a paramedic's flashlight like a teddy bear. Across the roof, the drama of justice was playing out. Vanessa was being led away in handcuffs. Her pink dress was ruined, her face scratched and bruised from her collision with the car hood. She wasn't screaming anymore. She was catatonic, staring at the ground, realizing that her life of luxury was over. There would be no more galas, no more stolen funds, only a prison cell and a public defender. Catherine Thorne was being loaded onto a stretcher, a neck brace securing her head. She was conscious, her eyes darting around wildly. When she saw Sebastian standing near the police captain, she tried to speak. "Sebastian," she rasped. Call the lawyers. Fix this. I did it for you. Sebastian, his arm in a sling and his tuxedo shirt shredded, looked down at his mother. His face was unreadable, carved from the same stone that built his empire, but the cracks were visible now. You kidnapped my son, Mother, Sebastian said, his voice devoid of warmth. You tried to kill him. There are no lawyers coming. I'm pressing full charges. I am your mother, she shrieked as they lifted the stretcher. And he is my son, Sebastian countered softly. Goodbye, Catherine. He watched them load her into the ambulance. It was the end of an era. The matriarch who had controlled his life, who had whispered poison in his ear about Elena being plain and unworthy, was gone. Sebastian turned and walked toward Elena. He stopped a few feet away, respecting the invisible wall she had built around herself and Leo. The police captain needs a statement, Sebastian said quietly. I told him everything. Vanessa's embezzlement, my mother's insanity, and my negligence. Elena looked up. Her eyes were tired, but the fire in them had settled into a steady, warm glow. Negligence isn't a crime, Sebastian. Stupidity, perhaps, but not a crime. I'm going to resign, he said, dropping the bombshell. Even with your bailout, the board won't trust me. The public won't trust me. I'm toxic, Elena. I'll sign over the CEO position to you entirely. I'll walk away. It's what I deserve. Elena looked down at Leo's sleeping face. She thought about the last 5 years. The lonely nights. The struggle to pay rent. The burning desire to prove everyone wrong. She had won. She had the money, the power, and the company. She could crush Sebastian into dust right now. But she remembered his hand reaching through the balcony railing. She remembered him jumping off the roof without a harness. No, Elena said. Sebastian blinked. What? You don't get to walk away, Elena said, her voice hardening. That's the coward's way out. You walked away 5 years ago. You don't get to do it again. Then what do you want? I want you to work, she said, standing up and shifting Leo's weight to her hip. I'm keeping the company. I'm the CEO. But I need a chief engineer. I need someone who knows the product better than anyone else. I need the man I married in that garage, not the monster who lived in the mansion. Sebastian stared at her. You want me to work for you? You start Monday, Elena said, walking past him toward the elevator. Salary is negotiable. But I warn you, the boss is very demanding. As she passed him, Sebastian felt a strange sensation in his chest. It wasn't shame. It was hope. 6 months later, the headline of the Wall Street Journal read, The Phoenix Rises, How Aurelia Global Turned Around Thorn Enterprises. The photo underneath showed Elena Sterling, looking impeccable in a white power suit, cutting a ribbon at a new factory opening. Standing behind her, slightly out of focus but clearly present, was Sebastian Thorne. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was wearing a hard hat and holding blueprints. The office dynamic had shifted tectonically. Elena occupied the corner office that used to be Sebastian's. She had redecorated, removing the cold marble and leather, replacing it with warm wood and art drawn by Leo. Sebastian's office was down the hall. It was smaller, functional, and cluttered with prototypes. Knock, knock, Sebastian said, leaning against Elena's doorframe. Elena didn't look up from her laptop. Did you fix the efficiency issue with the solar capacitors, Mr. Thorne? I did. We're up 15% efficiency. The investors are going to be happy. Good. Elena typed a final sentence and closed her laptop. She finally looked up. Then you can leave early today. I was hoping. Sebastian started, shifting his weight nervously. It's Friday. I have Leo this weekend, per the custody agreement. But I was wondering if you wanted to join us. We're going to the zoo. He wants to show me the tigers. The custody arrangement had been the hardest part of the last 6 months. Elena had been terrified to let Leo go. But Sebastian had been relentless in his effort. He took parenting classes. He went to therapy. He showed up to every soccer practice, cheering louder than the other dads. He was learning to be a father from scratch. Elena studied him. He looked younger than he had at the gala. The stress of being the king was gone. He was doing what he loved, engineering, and he was building a relationship with his son. The zoo? Elena mused. I do like tigers. And maybe dinner after? Sebastian ventured. Not a date. Just family dinner. Pizza. Greasy, cheap pizza. Elena smiled. It wasn't the guarded smile of the CEO. It was the smile of the girl who used to love him. I'll drive. You have terrible taste in pizza toppings. The year of redemption. The seasons changed. The scandal of the kidnapping faded into legal history. Vanessa pleaded guilty to fraud and was serving 10 years in a federal prison. Catherine Thorne was in a secure psychiatric facility, her mind having snapped under the weight of her own narcissism. But inside the new Thorne Sterling household, things were healing. It wasn't a fairy tale. There were arguments. There were days when Elena looked at Sebastian and remembered the rain in Seattle, and she would withdraw, cold and distant. On those days, Sebastian didn't push. He waited. He apologized. He proved, over and over, that he wasn't going anywhere. One rainy Tuesday in November, the anniversary of the night he kicked her out, Sebastian found Elena sitting on the porch of her new estate in Connecticut. She was watching the rain fall, tears streaming down her face. He sat down beside her. He didn't say anything. He just placed a small box on the table between them. "I don't want jewelry, Sebastian," she whispered. "It's not jewelry," he said. She opened the box. Inside was a pair of knitted blue booties, the ones she had hidden in her pocket 5 years ago. He had found them in her old duffel bag when they were moving boxes. "I missed it," Sebastian said, his voice choking. "I missed the pregnancy, the birth, the first steps. I missed everything because I was blind. I can never buy that time back, Elena. I know that." He took a deep breath. "But I promise you, I will never miss another moment. Not a graduation, not a heartbreak, not a rainy Tuesday." Elena picked up the booties. She looked at the man beside her. He wasn't the billionaire prince anymore. He was just a man, flawed and trying. "You have a lot of work to do, Sebastian," she said softly. "I'm not afraid of work," he replied. "I work for the toughest boss in the world," Elena laughed through her tears. She leaned her head on his shoulder. It was the first time she had touched him affectionately in 6 years. "You're hired," she whispered. The final scene, the Winter Gala, returns 1 year later. The Pierre Hotel was once again the center of the universe for New York's elite. The cameras were ready. The red carpet was rolled out. But this time, the atmosphere was different. There was no tension. There was only anticipation. The black Rolls-Royce pulled up. The door opened. Elena Sterling stepped out. She wore gold this time, a shimmering liquid gold gown that made her look like a goddess of victory. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked triumphant. She turned and offered her hand. Sebastian Thorne stepped out. He looked handsome, distinguished, but he wasn't leading. He took her hand, kissed her knuckles, and stepped back to let her shine. Then, the back door opened. 6-year-old Leo jumped out, wearing a tuxedo and a pair of cool sunglasses. He waved at the paparazzi like a pro. "Mr. Thorne! Miss Sterling! Are you back together?" a reporter shouted. "Is the merger official?" Elena stopped on the stairs. She looked at Sebastian, then down at Leo. "We are something better than a merger," Elena announced, her voice ringing clear over the crowd. "We are a partnership." She looked at Sebastian. "Ready, Chief Engineer?" "After you, Madam CEO," he grinned. They walked up the stairs together, hand in hand, with their son between them. They weren't just a powerful couple, they were survivors. They had walked through the fire of betrayal, the ice of abandonment, and the storm of revenge, and they had come out the other side not as royalty, but as a family. As they entered the golden light of the ballroom, the doors closed behind them, shutting out the cold, dark world forever. The forgotten wife hadn't just made a comeback. She had rewritten the entire story. And that is the story of Elena and Sebastian. A reminder that sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what actually matters. Elena didn't just get revenge. She got justice, and more importantly, she saved her son and redeemed the father he deserved. It's a powerful lesson that true strength isn't about how much money you have in the bank, but about the resilience to rise from the ashes when the world leaves you in the rain. I hope this story kept you on the edge of your seat with its twists, turns, and emotional roller coaster. If you enjoyed Elena's journey from a forgotten wife to a powerful CEO, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Don't forget to share this video with a friend who loves a good drama, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our next story. Thanks for watching.